What's up, everybody? Rob Gill here at Epic Insurance Services, and we're going to talk about how to get what you want from the universe. There's a strategy. What's up, everybody? Rob Gill here at Epic. I'm with Carolyn DeSena. How you doing, Carolyn?
How are you, Rob?
Oh my
Thanks
God.
for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. This is great.
My pleasure.
I'm very much looking forward to this conversation.
Me too.
For somebody that's been in the financial services industry, right? We want to talk a little bit today, we can get to that in a little while, about the importance of estate planning.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Before we go there, can we talk a little bit about your journey from where it started,
Yeah.
where you went to high school,
Okay.
and then how you came here to New Jersey?
Okay. Well, that's really fun and interesting.
Yes.
But I was born in Singapore and actually spent about 2.5 years in Vietnam. And my mother and we actually left Vietnam in 1975, right before the coup. So that was very interesting. My mother actually went to the Singapore airport wanting to go back to get her family. And a CIA agent actually grabbed the passport out of her hand and ran away and basically disappeared. And she couldn't get on that plane to go back and grab her family. So that's a little bit of my history, my background. I'm half Vietnamese. My father was a U.S. naval soldier. He did 2 tours of duty in Vietnam. And the CIA agent went back after that last plane left. And he said, you know, if I'd let you get on that plane, as soon as you had gotten off, because you're a U.S. citizen, they would have cut your head off. And so from that moment in 1975, it took probably another 10 years for my mother to get her entire family out of Vietnam. And it was such a crazy journey for her to do that. But it all worked out really great. And, you know, my mother and my family, you know, talk about coming to the United States and working so hard. They came here with nothing. They came here with a suitcase, clothes in a bag, no English. And they basically worked so hard to learn English. They were working at Red Lobster, at McDonald's. And today, you know, their children went to private schools, private colleges. They're all very successful. They have beautiful homes, you know, drive wonderful cars, have such a great life experience here in America. And it just really is a true testament to, you know, being in America and working so hard and that really living that American dream.
Wow. Can I use this as access real fast?
Yeah.
I have a couple questions because it sounds like to me that growing up, you saw hard work and success at a high level.
Yes.
And even at a younger age, as let's say material success began to come on your family, right? When you were in high school.
Yeah.
The work ethic, because as we know, a lot of people out here, I always like to share that there's no such thing as overnight success.
Correct.
It just doesn't show up at the front
Without
door,
question.
right?
Yes.
So it's learned strategies, behaviors, massive action plans. Can you talk a little bit about what you learned early on in the grammar school years that led to your work ethic in high school and eventually got you on Wall Street?
I mean, I watched my entire...
Before we did
Yeah.
booty juice,
Yeah. Oh.
right? Before we get to booty juice, we want to talk about what happened from high school into college.
Yeah, so basically I watched my entire family work, you know, every single day, 7 days a week. My mother would be up at the crack of dawn. She had 2 businesses. She had a nail salon. She had a convenience store. So she would basically cook the food, leave the house. We wouldn't see her until 6 o'clock at night. She'd, you know, quickly give us dinner, and then she wouldn't be home until midnight, and then go to bed, pay the bills.
Rinse and repeat.
And rinse and repeat. And talk about dedication, commitment. And there was a vision that my mother had. Like there was no option to fail for my mother. Zero option to fail. She wasn't going to take no for an answer. And I have to say that living in Texas and being a Vietnamese woman who had a broken accent, and she was brilliant and so smart, but already, like, I feel like, and I hate to say that, but I feel like back in the 80s, she was already fighting against so many stereotypes.
And did you see that at the time? Did
Absolutely.
you remember like feeling it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I watched my mother harden because she had to, it wasn't like she could just walk in and people would just, you know, give her whatever it is that she was asking for, whatever she needed. She had to become so much more tough. She had to be, you know, she just had to keep going. She had such tenacity. She wouldn't ever let go. She knew that whatever she was going for, she just could not stop. No was never an option. Yes was the only word I could understand. I think from a very early age, even for myself, asking my mother for things and having my mother teach me about the value of a dollar, even though she said no to me, but that just made me want to ask more, negotiate, find other angles, different ways to get what it is that I wanted.
It sounds like Carolyn's asking empowering questions. Abundant questions, not scarce questions.
And that's how I learned how to negotiate, because my mother, had a concept. She wanted to teach me things. And then, she taught me that I had to negotiate. I had to work for things. But then watching her work so hard to put food on the table and to give us all the things that, my entire family needed. College. I had great cars. I grew up, I had a convertible Chrysler LeBaron that my mother paid for in cash.
So by the time you got to high school, there was money flowing.
There was money, there was absolutely, my mother worked in a cash business, so yes, there was money flowing. Okay. And today, my mother ended up realizing that real estate was where she needed to be. And so in Texas, with so much real estate and so much business going on, she's just started scooping up real estate back in the 80s and in the 90s. And now she's like a little mini real estate tycoon. But this is because she learned, she taught herself. I even think that she even went to one of the Tony Robbins events, at some point. She got the book, she studied it. She had broken English, but she was brilliant. Yeah, she was smart, and she never had the opportunity to go to college, but that was not stopping her.
It sounds like to me like money is a mindset, right? So I think that, certain people attract money because they actually don't look for it, but they value, respect it. And what I'm hearing is from an estate planning perspective, not only are we going to talk about Carolyn's situation, but even her mom, right, who's gathering assets, and she probably has assets in different states. And why is estate planning so important when you want to pass on the wealth to the next generation and make sure the government doesn't get the money?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So you're in high school, you go to college.
Yeah, so I wanted to be an actress when I was younger. I go to college and I'm saying, okay, well, I can't go to school for theater, so what am I going to do? So I said, I need a fallback, so let's maybe do radio, television, and film. I felt like if I wasn't going to make it in front of the camera, that I would be directing and telling people what to do behind the camera. So I did that.
She's been telling us what to do all day.
I spent 2 summers. I spent a summer in LA. I did a lot of work on production companies, with production companies. I worked with Martin Lawrence on TV shows. I worked with Mo Money, the Wayans brothers. And the funny thing is like nobody gave that to me. I actually learned from an early age that if I want something, I have to search, look, and ask. And it wasn't like my parents, had connections. They didn't help me open up any doors, but I knew what I wanted, and I just had to keep searching for, people who had connections, who had connections, who had connections. And so maybe from a very early age, I was already working my own little ecosystem.
Ecosystem mergers.
That's right. And I was already doing my own, networking just so that I can find a way to get where I wanted to be.
Wow.
And at that time, it was Hollywood. I wanted to be in LA. I wanted to either act, direct, produce, write. And I worked really hard doing that. And the following summer, during college, I went to New York and I didn't have a job again. So I didn't know anybody. What did I do? I'm like, I'm not going to give up. I put on my rollerblades and I rollerbladed throughout the whole entire city of New York. I found a movie set because, movies are always shooting in the summertime. Found a movie set and asked one of the Teamsters, I want a job.
Teamster.
Can I have a Teamster, which is not even someone like working on the movie. Those are the guys that actually pack the trucks, which are very important, but they pack up the trucks and the equipment. Yep. And I said, I want a job. I want to work for free. Who's going to train me? Whatever you want. I just want to learn. And so they interviewed me, and I was so lucky. I actually stepped onto a set with Boaz Yakin, who at the time was a very notable director. He directed Remember the Titans.
Oh,
and the movie, I know, and the movie was actually, that was not my film. The film I worked on was called Fresh. But he was notable for Remember the Titans, and it was actually produced by Lawrence Bender, who's a very notable producer in Hollywood. And so I got really lucky to have had that experience. But once again, if you do not seek, if you do not ask, it just wasn't going to happen. And I got really lucky that, or whatever, it happened and it worked out really well. But what happened that summer is I met some people and they said, hey, you don't want to be waiting tables, waiting for your next gig. So why don't you maybe get a temporary job working on the floor of the American Stock Exchange as a trader? And I said, all right, sure, that sounds good. I need, I'm going to move to New York after I graduate. And
So you knew that already. You were coming to New York.
I
You made that decision.
chose New
Got
York.
it.
From this experience, I chose New York. I'll tell you why I didn't want LA. That was a whole funny other story. But I wanted New York, and I said, all right, I need furniture, I need money, I need to get up here, I need to get started. Why don't we do a temporary job? I'll save some money, and then I'll go back and forth doing my gigs, working as a production assistant. And I interviewed I was 21 years old. I finished all my courses in 3.5 years, and I interviewed with a gentleman called, his name was Stu Sternberg, who was a partner of Spear Leeds and Kellogg at the time. And today he owns the Tampa Bay Rays.
Wow.
Yeah, no, he owns it, manages it, runs it. He owns the Tampa Bay Rays. So I interviewed with him, and I was able to do math in my head. I was able to, add, subtract fractions, whatever. And he was like, okay, you're hired. And I was 21 years old, and within like a month, I was working on the floor of the American Stock Exchange, trading, working in the financial markets, hollering and screaming at all these guys who are like hollering and screaming at me.
And at that time, there wasn't a lot of women doing what you were doing.
There was. I would say maybe 5%.
Wow.
There were 5% women working on the floor. So I definitely had to learn how to adapt to be in a man's world and to just exist and to learn how to thrive, yeah. In a man's world. And so I was only 21 years old, and I had no experience really doing that, but they threw me in there. I could do the math. I was assisting, the specialists at the time, and eventually I became a specialist. I never got my badge, but I was definitely running my own books. It was a tremendous experience, being on the floor, because now the floor is not there anymore. And to actually be a part of history and to be a part of that is, really special time in my life.
And let me use that as access. Yeah. So for everybody out there, it's important to understand that perseverance, money is a mindset, and being able to overcome obstacles, and at the same time, keeping up with changes, because there's nothing as constant as change. And what Carolyn just described is a world that doesn't exist anymore. For all us folks here on the East Coast that used to go to Wall Street or work on the exchanges, it's being replaced by computers. So if we know that, and if we understand to have a wealth mindset, there's certain things that could be done by asking proper questions and going on a proper journey to be able to kind of take that next evolutionary step and be able to prosper in any kind of adventure that you want to be able to do. What I'm hearing is like overcoming obstacles. Like a jet engine goes higher because of adversity, right? Because of resistance. And every single step you took was to take that next quantum leap forward. So you're at Spear Leeds now.
Yeah, so I'm at Spear Leeds, and I'm realizing that maybe I'm going to hang up my career, in the film business. And I love it so much that I realize I hate trading. So I've been doing that for about 4 years, and I don't love the ups and downs. And I said, I want to go work with clients, put me in front of clients. I want to maybe check out how to work with customers. They brought me upstairs, and by the time I was 27 years old, they sent me to London, where I helped the firm open up an office, and I was running around all over Europe selling the firm's products and services. Oh. And then within a year or two, Goldman Sachs bought us, and I was one of the first employees to transfer over to Goldman, where I was then taking the European operation and really getting them to understand the value of the $6.1 billion, asset that they just bought, which was the company that I came from. And so that was very challenging, great fun. And, I was in front of hedge funds, institutions, banks, and really learned the world of selling. And here's where it comes where, yes, you don't take no for an answer. Yes is always, the word that you're actually going for. And when I came back from London, I worked and ran a little sales team at Goldman Sachs in prime brokerage. And that's where I met Neil. Actually, I met Neil when I was 21, but that's where I came back, worked for Neil, and then
quick question.
Neil.
So quick question. Yeah. So manifesting destiny, I feel like you organically were great at sales, right? And the question is, how do you get what you want from the universe, right? In that scenario, all of a sudden you've gone from the left coast of California to the East Coast, all in the world of the movie sets. And now you're on Wall Street. You go to Europe, and now you're back on Wall Street And you meet your husband.
I think the one thing that people fail to realize about the universe is that the universe really does give you everything that you need to know, and it puts it right in front of your face. It's just a matter of how do you recognize that, and how do you say, okay, it's right in front of my face. How do you capitalize it? How do you recognize it? How do you take what the universe has given you and then go with it? The problem is that people spend too much time looking someplace else or searching in other places for something that really doesn't make sense. And literally the universe has just given you everything right in front of your face. And that's that's my firm belief. I feel like the universe has just, all the things that I have been given and the opportunities that I have been given have literally been given to me. And it was just a matter of me like jumping on it or like realizing that it was there. And, if people are given opportunities, they might be too scared or might be too insecure or might not feel like they're ready. And everyone always wants to prepare and prepare for that moment to be ready. And there's never a good moment to be ready.
It sounds like what Carolyn's saying is do the thing you fear to do and the death of fear is certain. Carolyn, thank you for sharing that. That's an unbelievable journey.
Thank you for having me.
We do have another one where we're going to talk about the importance of estate planning. If anybody wants to be able to see that, check it out. It's a very knowledgeable piece on how to do proper planning.